Welcome everyone. TheDailyWoo here on a very beautiful morning on the outskirts of Dallas, Texas, as the recording of this, November 16th, 2021. I will be in great detail attempting to find as much as possible from the filming what's left from the filming locations of Silent Rage, a Chuck Norris horror film. That's right. Now he's still, there's a lot of action in this, but I'm gonna classify this as a horror. Do not be deceived. This is not a VHS. It's just a sleeve. There it is. There's Chuck Norris right there, and John Kirby, who is indestructible. Think of Michael Myers meets the Terminator meets Chuck Norris. I'm inviting you to join me. I am very excited about this. This might be one of my favorite Chuck Norris movies. I love this movie. Maybe it's the nostalgia aspect. Maybe it's how bizarre it is. And there's not a lot of information online on where the spots was. So I had to put some time into this. Join me. Okay, putting this back in the retro VHS looking sleeve. Shall you? I always like a good challenge when finding things, especially when there's not a lot of info out there. Thankfully, through high definition on watching a movie, you can see certain elements in the background, like a street sign on this corner, as well as looking in the background of a certain frame, like these apartments over here, which is kind of what gave the clue that it's that home over there that was used. Now these two homes were built after 1982. This was just an empty lot where the sheriff, played by Chuck Norris, fought Brian Libby, who did a heck of a job playing the villain right over in here. So this is all post 1982. However, that house right over there where the truck is parked in front of is the screen used home. There really is only one moment you can pinpoint the cross streets where Chuck is walking up to the front door, and where I started my intro is right over there. You're kind of looking across that direction, and there is that cross street sign. This driveway is all brand new, well, new since '82. This is the original driveway here for the home, and I have to wonder, I'm going to go up and knock on the door and just see if the residents even know that there was a movie filmed inside their house. Okay, no one answered the door. They did have a couple of cameras, probably know that I'm here, or they'll watch back their footage a little bit later. So if they watch this back, just know that I'm just kind of here to document the movie. I wanted to just ask if they knew. So hopefully this gets back to them and they realize, because there's not a lot of people realize that this is the home. I had thought if they were home, just maybe see if I can get in the backyard, see where the chicken coop was, or possibility of even getting inside and seeing if it still looks the same, which I'm imagining it does. So because no one is here or they're not answering the door, I'm just going to do everything from the sidewalk and show the best perspectives. But that's where the officers pulled up, right here on this cross streets. So they added a sidewalk there across this very distinct looking island of grass there. And Kirby was right here where he kicked out the cruiser's door. He was strong. But before all that happened, there was, it's a rated R film. There's a lot of, it's a horror film. This lady here met her demise up in that window. You see the mailman, he went to call for help, but the window is right up there. That's the very window. Also, where Chuck Norris, chasing Brian Libby, the character of Kirby, jumped off the side of there. But that is the same window where quite a bit happens, and that same awning right up there. And there is an angle out the window, down over the shingles. You can see the mailman, and look at the cracks here in the concrete of the driveway as he's running off to get help. Those cracks in the concrete of the driveway kind of ascending up are still there. Right there. Just to get around the side of the tree limbs, I'm not going to get the precise angle, but he's got the axe. She's attempting to crawl out the window to no avail. Pulls her back in, as you can see there. There's the window, there's the shingles. I'm showing this kind of a little bit out of sequence, but it's all in the beginning of the film. How terrifying is this? How ominous is this? See, there's the sheriff getting out right there, walking up the driveway. Once again, there is that little grass island over in the middle without the newly added sidewalk. Just want to keep showing that. That was another thing when I was looking at satellite view that clued me in that this was the spot. You know, besides the cross streets, which is only shown for one moment. I'm happy this is still here. Leaping off the side. And as he leapt off, went over into, as stated, where these facades were not here. This was just a grass area where there was a bit of a scuffle right over in here. Quite a bit of a scuffle. And the house has been repainted. Now, it's tough to tell really what's going on in the movie. It wasn't a family member that he was going after, or a family. I think maybe he was renting a room in like an apartment or a halfway house or something like that. Kind of confusing, but it all went off the rails. After he was captured, well, he eventually broke out. Spoiler alert. I'm not gonna give too many spoilers. You need to watch the film. But you can notice over here, this also has been repainted. That's where I kind of started from when I was walking across the road. It's like someone's doing some circles there in the road. Someone spun around very quickly. But the car was right here. Broke the window out of the car, shattered the window out. Well, not shattered the window, but busted the door down in front of the house. And then you just, very, very impactful scene. A lot of drama took place right here. Might recognize this face from Animal House, Stephen Furst, who was trying to help and didn't work out too well. Kind of sent a bullet over that way, which almost got the sheriff. But notice where he's standing, he's got that look of, well, I just messed up on his face. But this is the pole here in front of, and there's that light. Our light's still up there. Won't be able to get the proper, precise angle because I don't want to go back up in the yard. After I went up and knocked on the door and rang the doorbell and all that, stood up there a good while. But the pole that Chuck is standing next to and Stephen is standing next to is right there. They would have been on the other side, kind of where that little foliage fence is. Still looks the same, that holding up the porch there, or holding up the awning. And after the door to the car was kicked in and he tried to escape, you could see the excitement there on the face. That was up on the porch. Pillars still look the same. Looking at the side of the home, there used to be a little porch area kind of uplifted towards the middle section of the side where the camera angle shows out at this home next door as shown here. So the room he was staying in, when there's a knock on the door saying there's a phone call, it's his doctor, and he says he can't make it, doc. And that's when everything really goes awry. That porch has been removed, and up there it does not appear as if the stained glass window is there anymore where the intro was, and it stated across that stained glass right before the movie begins and the credits roll, Silent Rage. It was a real window. That window's been removed. This is the example of what it looked like inside the real room where he is laying down. Would have been right up there in that corner. And he had, you know, a bunch of clippings and papers kind of taped and put up on the side of the wall. That's when you know someone's mind's not right, when they just have a bunch of clippings. I guess that's a way production designer signifies that someone is kind of losing it when there's just like clippings on the wall. With some dogs barking. A few more spots to go. Well, quite a few more spots to go to. But this was the beginning scene and needed to be shown right there. There it is. The Blu-ray, VHS retro style cover, in frame. Chuck Norris in a horror film. Who knew? Well, I knew, and a few other people I know have seen it. But it wasn't a blockbuster, and it was one of the few lovemaking scenes that he ever did. And that scene, the music over it, was a musical artist that you might not realize even was a singer. Peggy from Married with Children, Katie Seagal, was on the soundtrack. Didn't happen in this house. It didn't happen in this house. In fact, that house I cannot find. I'll show at the very end. There's one or two spots I could not find, but this one I found and a few others. I'm gonna get moving. No one came outside. I was thinking someone would come out, at least one of the neighbors. No one did. But it was not for a lack of making myself completely obvious that I am here. Very, very obvious. Been out here for a while. Was a neighbor 4 or 5 houses down, paid no attention to me, and the one next door where that field was now a home. The driveway opened, or the carport opened, and then closed back down. They probably wonder what I'm doing, but they did not walk out to ask. I was hoping to talk to them, but didn't happen. Moving on. Also never realized from the countless times of watching that movie that there was a little incline here, because when the car pulls up in the driveway, you see this, but you don't really see that this is here. You know, this is the original kind of lifting up section. I nerd out about some of the most mundane, simple things. This would be one of them. That this little grass island is here. One quick last perspective here before rolling on. Oh, there's a carport closing again. Someone else peeked out to see. No one's been over to say anything. Very concealed by these trees. I had a lot of screen grabs and captures inside the home as well, you know, just in case, but no reason to really show those. And across the way, this house, which you see from the perspective I just showed, is this home here. Very beautiful area, just on the outskirts of downtown Dallas. And if you don't know who Brian Libby is, this was up in that room too, in that same house. Been in a lot of films. Shawshank Redemption, played a supporting role in Shawshank. Kind of one of the dinner scenes when they're in the dining hall, and others as well from Shawshank. But if I ever got to meet him, I would definitely talk about this film. He did a heck of a job and was very terrifying. All right. Another interesting fact about this area, it's said that Norris loved this area so much, he loved Texas so much, that it inspired him to create Walker, Texas Ranger. Of his time he spent here filming this movie. Pretty cool if that's true. Oh, there's a nice view of downtown, right over in the distance there. Downtown Dallas. Going past downtown to the next spot. Like go around downtown. By looking closely on the horizon, you can see the skyline of downtown. South Central Expressway is where I'm standing, and in this very spot was the little diner restaurant where they had lunch and first encountered the bikers, the very rude bikers who they later on would, well, I'll show you this. I'll show you what happened a little bit later on, but this is where they first met them and had their lunch. Right behind me. As windy as it is, audio is going to be horrible trying to match these up outside, so I'm doing it looking out my car window out of the elements because it is very gusty out there. But notice where they are pulling out. This took a while to kind of get the coordinates of. A lot of days and weeks on street view of everything around Dallas to eventually find this building here. And this is what clued me in. This building still exists right here. Notice the awning that is there and the shape of the building. And that was the clue. That was the big clue, because that still exists right over there. The name of the building is a little bit different, but that awning and the archway or the design of the roof line still the same. So I'm in the spot from the diner. And as they're leaving in the Bronco, there's a power pole there, and you can faintly see downtown Dallas off in the distance as well. That's another indication that this is the spot. There's that power pole and downtown Dallas way off over there. It's a pretty good motivational speech that happened between the two friends right here in this spot as well. Not as much gravel in this section as there was then. It's all kind of a grass area. Now where I'm about to pull out onto the road is still gravel, but not as much gravel as there was back in '82. And you don't really see high enough in the frame to see that water tower, but this is the angle as shown here, kind of giving a kind of a scowl on the face as they pull out onto the road. And it looks as if he got 2 hamburgers before Norris walked in and ordered his without onions, and then he asked if he could have his partner's onions, the sheriff's onions. This is what it looked like back then. There is, as I was kind of walking around over there, there is no foundation left, but that is the spot right there. That power pole behind. There was a couple other buildings over where this kind of utility power pole antenna thing is now. But that building was right there. Probably an active diner at the time, but you know, that's been back in 1982, which would be 39 years ago. Things have changed. And now heading north of the city, I'm gonna go about 15 miles from this direction, past downtown, to another spot. It is a bummer when things get bulldozed and torn down. You know, progress needs to happen. But the Wadley Institute of Molecular Medicine, this building here, is gone. However, there is a glimmer of hope, even though a lot of the interiors, according to some sources, took place inside those buildings. There's this unusual building that still remains off to the side. Now, what I'm thinking where the interiors, a lot of the interiors took place in that Wadley Institute, that is gone right there. Now a parking area and kind of off limits to the general public. There is this building, which I am very excited to state still exists. Research Row and Wadley Lane. Look closely on behind the reception desk in the lobby, which I'm going to go into momentarily. There, when I was kind of like going frame by frame, I noticed, do they have a photo of the real building on the wall? And they do, because take a look at that. That is the same very building, one of the ones that was not demolished and an important piece. So I'm going to go walk into that lobby, see if that elevator's still there. Here's another moment when he's kind of consoling her, telling the security that he's going to take her upstairs. And before they walked into the little lobby there, I don't know if it's a lobby anymore, they walked along this very section as well. goodness. The elevator is still there. Holy cow. Oh, are these the same buttons? This is pretty wild. So right there's the elevator. There's the reception desk. Oh man, reception desk has changed. Elevator, this is where the guard, so the door opens and the guard had his head is like kind of smashed in. He's like not had a good time because of Kirby. You know, because this is where a lot of the action took place. Okay, I'm kind of like losing it a little bit that this still exists. So this is behind, this is where the photo was. Now it's been replaced with this flower arrangement, piece of artwork. Wow. Into the stairwell. Oh yes, it's still the same. Oh my goodness, the same railings. Holy cow. Okay, I just went off of a hunch thinking that they filmed this in here past the lobby area. Elevators over there. And I was thinking they used the interiors here of this staircase, and they did. It's the same. Check this out. How cool is that? Right? Wow. And before leaving, I do need to check the elevator and just see kind of what it looks like here. Okay, it does not look the same. Had a more like a carpeted floor. Well, there it is. Wow. I'm just beside myself right now. This is too dang cool. All right, going outside. Just talked to one of the workers, explained to her and showed her some of the screen grabs. She had no idea. She had no clue. Now following this back out, there was quite a bit of an action-packed sequence right up there in that top room. And I did ask if it still looked the same. Kind of had some wood paneling, and she kind of alluded that I wasn't really supposed to be in there, or not supposed to go any farther past the first level, so not going to get up to the top. However, the third window over was where Kirby was, well, the stuntman went out of the window, and you assume that he has met his demise. John Kirby fell right here in this very spot, but he's indestructible. You know, science made him completely indestructible, and only Chuck Norris can destroy him. Here is that frame as the glass from the window is busted, thrown out. Very reminiscent to Loomis and Myers at the end of the first Halloween. In fact, the amount of times that the weapon was discharged, the same. A lot of similarities as far as the camera work goes, the steady cam throughout the course of this. You gotta see it if you're a fan of, that genre. I just love it, and the fact that, it's just so quirky that an action star like that would take on that genre. But there it is, right up there, and I want to back up and show you something really, really interesting. All these years later, there is a memento of the past. They never properly fixed the window to match up with what the other windows look like. Right there, third one over, notice a distinction. That's the window that was busted out. What the heck? That's the kind of stuff I love, right there. Have, however, done a little renovation here to the side of this curb. So this part is original, but this has been changed since those years. And there he lays after plummeting from up there. right here on the concrete. It's not over though. Like I said, he's indestructible. He gets back up. To get just a little more technical. Right about there. They roll around on the pavement and then over towards this little grassy section. And the vehicle was parked underneath that awning right over there. So there was quite a bit of a fight that took place right here. Then the female lead got behind the wheel of the vehicle and basically plowed right into him here, right about that angle. Action-packed. One of the fun things about doing this, you know, it's almost like you're doing a little bit of detective work when you go out on some of these locations. You just got to think that most people probably don't even realize the movie history and the fact that something like this took place. Even people who work here or live in the area that pass by this building all the time, that took place right here. Standing right on this exact spot. And they cut over to another scene because when he latches onto the back of the Bronco and drives off, it looks nothing like this. It's to another area, which I'm clueless on, so that's, you know, can't find everything, but I found a few things that hadn't been found, which I'm pretty excited about. Especially the fact that that window is noticeably different. That's the one that Norris is looking out of with the shards of glass around it. It's kind of like looking down to see if the conclusion was what he thought it would be, and then he walked down and discovered it wasn't. He's still alive. Now gonna commute about 20 miles west of here, on the outskirts of Dallas, technically into Arlington for the last spot. Another one I'm pretty happy that still exists. Well, kind of sort of still exists, but it has been found. Kind of like this one. Man, this is so much fun. Anyone that's seen the movie, including myself, over the years, you will always have a few key elements and a few kee moments that stay etched in your head. One of which is a scene involving at least a dozen or more bikers versus, it was a fight scene versus one man. And you guess who that man is? By himself, took on a whole bar full of very mouthy, rude individuals. And he sent his partner outside to go wait in the car, and he just handled it himself. And I am here to report that right here was where that bar was. Corner of Cantor Drive and North Collins Streets. There was only one clue, one indication that I was able to utilize to pinpoint that this was the spot. Probably one of the greatest bar brawls I've ever seen on film. Unforgettable. Happened right here. The only clue, the only indication I had to go off of was this little building here called Al's Hamburgers. Once I deciphered this spot, I then realized by satellite view this apartment complex over in the distance is still there, even though this RV lot is now basically a strip mall of some sort. And you can see that Cantor was just being built. There was no road by the name of Cantor back then. It was under construction. They did a U-turn right there in the Bronco, in the middle of the road, right here, on North Collins. In fact, now that I'm standing here and I have the matchup to see, the street lights down there are still the same, and there is another shopping center off to the left that can be seen in some of the frames. Pay attention to the back side of those lights angled there, where the motorcycle goes out the window Now this awning has been removed, but those are still there. Even modern day, as I kind of zoom in, you will see them as they come into focus. There they are. The back side of those streetlights. That awning's gone, but the little strip development is still there. This was a toughie, I'm gonna be honest. Was no indication anywhere online that this place ever existed. Look at the sign called Old Blues Bar. Now the trees most likely are not the same trees. They have probably been replanted by this new business that now sits here. But that's the same general vicinity where the motorcycle went out the window, very dramatic, and went past the tree, and what I was showing, one of those screen angles, kind of looking down that way. The only way I was able to even figure this out was at Al's Hamburgers, which was the first of 3 spots. There was a second spot, and they moved from this one over here, where that restaurant on the corner now sits. They moved down Collins a few blocks, and now they're in a 3rd location. Finding the address of this one took a little scouring, but figured it out. And this is it. With the original Al's Hamburgers right over there. The Bronco pulled up right along that section, pulled in past these trees, and right to the front of the Old Blues Bar. And they walked in. Yeah, I'd love to say that one of these is the tree. But in fact, you know, in 1982, a lot has changed. And since they demolished this whole area, probably not. You know, they've been replanted. But that's the angle. This would have been their view as they pulled in the parking lot. Right in that vicinity. I feel like I've watched the film so many times. It feels like it still exists here. It feels like it's still here. And I'm waiting for that motorcycle to come crashing through a window. Of course, this is a little more offset from the road. I don't want a motorcycle to crash through those windows. A pretty dramatic stunt, in all honesty. Had a wire attached to him so that the stuntman stayed inside. The motorcycle busted out there, and then the motorcycle landed right here in this very area. Also, there's an apartment complex across the way there, and there's a car wash, but there used to be a mechanic shop, and you get the reaction of the deputy. You can also see how this is elevated, where those stores are across the way is kind of dipped down a bit, which is where his reaction view was shown here, kind of like looking at his face, the surprise. To see how the road is on normal level and then it kind of dips down. You can even see how that Jeep is going kind of up and down just like it is still modern day. This is where the car wash is now. It was a mechanic with an awning of some sort. And if you look back here, see the roof lines of these apartments off in the distance. Those are still there off in the distance to this day. Right over in that area. I'll kind of zoom in so you can kind of see them a little better. Corner of North Collins and Cantor Drive. Bronco pulled up right here. Al's Hamburgers would have been right over there. There are the roof lines of those apartments I was mentioning off in the distance there. Now obscured obviously by new buildings. But that's them. It's his reaction right here. Front door would have been located right here. So if it still existed, walk right in to the door and see this had taken place. There he is, admiring his handiwork of taking on a dozen men and besting them. And the deputy walks in, who had been outside, not lending a hand. All of them scattered right here along the ground. And the deputy said, Want me to read them their rights? I've been wanting to do these spots for a long time. It's something that's been on my radar, and I'm glad I was able to accomplish it. After the outro, I will show a couple of the spots that I wasn't able to find. A little homework assignment for anyone that's interested. I always like to just kind of throw stuff out there. This is not the end all. It's kind of good to have other people with, you know, the same mindset, the same kindred spirits that like to go out and, you know, do this stuff. It's a small niche. Not everyone is into this, but some people kind of have that little weird tick in the brain where they want to go and see where everything was filmed. So I will show a few spots that I could not designate, but I feel like I did a pretty good amount of stuff that had never been shown before, and for that I am very content. That's going to do it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Check it out. Silent Rage, Chuck Norris, guy from Shawshank. A good movie. The director stated that he was going for a Frankenstein vibe, but I get more of a Michael Myers vibe without a mask, obviously. You'll see what I mean if you ever watch it. See you in the next video. The vlog, by the way, it's rated R. Keep that in mind if you watch it or anyone that you recommend watches it. The vlog is over. Couldn't find this overlooking the lake scene, her home. Got shirtless Norris. Couldn't find this, which possibly could have been what was torn down at the molecular center. It would have been neat to see the tunnels there. Also, the well at the end. Yeah, that's still a mystery. That's a big mystery. And this home, which you could see him kind of like taking off there, not being seen. Very unique house that I would have liked to have discovered, but no indication on that one or that one. This one really gives me this whole moment here really gives me the original John Carpenter Halloween vibes with the steady cam. Science created him. Now Chuck Norris must destroy him. That is a heck of a kick.